Thank you so much for having me on the show. I hope y'all have an A1 day.
I can't wait to tell them you just said that. Hello and welcome back to Love It Film. My name is Jamie and I am your host. I've just interviewed RJ Mitte. That was phenomenal. I've always been a fan of RJ all the way back to Breaking Bad. He played Walter Jr. Flynn. You don't need me to tell you who he is. He's such a famous actor. I mean, his performance in Breaking Bad is amazing. I can't thank him enough for coming on to the show. It was such a good conversation. I mean, we talked about acting with Bryan Cranston, Walter Jr.'s ending in Breaking Bad, what it's like being in that show, being in all the press circuits, whether it be Conan O'Brien or doing this Breaking Bad bowling match for Nerdist. You're going to find all of it right here in this interview. We also talk about what it's like being an actor. You know, like after Breaking Bad, it's not all the most glamorous thing in the world. So if you are an actor watching the show, you will really like what RJ has to say. We also talk about RJ's advocacy work for Cerebral Palsy and all the amazing things he does for that. Without further ado, let's get talking to RJ. Now, RJ Mitte, I can't thank you enough for coming on to Love It Film. All the folks watching know who you are. I mean, I've been researching you for this interview. I know you're from Jackson, Mississippi, and when you were about 12 or 13, you moved to LA, and that's when you started getting into the crazy entertainment industry.
So I'm a little more complicated than what you read about online.
Yeah.
So I was actually just born in Jackson, Mississippi. So I'm actually adopted.
Okay.
So I was adopted at birth, and then my family's from Louisiana and Texas. And then around 12, 13, I came to California. So the 12, 13 in California is correct. Everything else is kind of obscured.
I get you. It's hard to like put all the nuances of someone's life into like the internet. They always
You
get it
really
wrong.
can't. You know, life is so much bigger. You know, in movies we make life bigger, but and in shows it's bigger and the media is bigger, but in reality it like our true lives are so much more than what anyone could put on paper.
Exactly, and even if it's on paper, there's so much more to it, you know? Now, what I first have to say about you, though, is you're such a talented motivational speaker. Like, the stuff I've heard you say, like, whether it be, as we mentioned before the interview, your Oxford Union address, or I know you do a lot of public speaking, too, it's phenomenal. Would you say your early acting experiences, like, for example, Breaking Bad, obviously, you know, I don't even have to explain what that is, such a big show. Do you think all of those things helped with you getting into that zone where you can get all of your thoughts out and, you know, motivate people?
Breaking Bad was such a huge part of my life and gave me so many tools that working on a show like that really had such a mastery of actors and filmmakers and production team that it really shaped me who I am and kind of working with other, PR and media and seeing kind of what I wanted to do with my career and what other people did with theirs. It really instilled this place in me where I feel this need to inspire. I feel this need to articulate it in a way where it helps others. And if you can't articulate it and you can't kind of grasp your emotions, no one else can. It's like a great film. If the film can't grab you, you're gonna change it. And so I definitely think Breaking Bad really gave me the tools, being able to see how the others interacted and how they talk to people really changed my dialogue.
Yeah, big time. I mean, going back even before that, like as I read again, it's the internet. Who knows if what I'm reading is accurate? But like before Breaking Bad, doing all these, getting into roles, extra work and stuff. I read like you were an extra in random shows, like whether it be Hannah Montana or whatever. What's something you remember from that time that maybe still stays with you?
Um, do what you're told. No, I recommend to every young actor, if and anyone that wants to get into this industry, extra work. Extra work is the number one. The industry has changed. Now it's all these social medias and stuff, but really, as far as like acting goes, and people sign up for classes, and people are going to school for it, but there's a lot of kids out there that don't have those resources. School can be very expensive. Acting classes can be very expensive, but extra work pays you. and and if you listen to the PAs, and you listen to the assistants on set, and you're on very strong sets like Hannah Montana and Everybody Hates Chris, and I was on about 14 different shows and movies as an extra when I first started, from around 12, 13, 14. uh I think really listening was one of the greatest things that I learned from it, because there's so many people yelling at you, right? There's so many people saying, be here, do this, look like this, or this. And if you're able to take all that information in and go, where do I need to be? What do I need to do? And refine it down to the very simple things, you will succeed.
Yeah. No, big time. I can't imagine just even, I'm from Ireland, that's where I am. And it's such a different universe to what you're talking about. I mean, being like when we hear actor, we forget that's, oh, wait, hold on a second. That's RJ being a kid doing a job. But like, it's not like this magical thing. It's this crazy type of world, as you say, like a job. And you get thrust into, Breaking Bad. And when people hear that show, they're thinking, oh yeah, Breaking Bad, biggest show in the world. It wasn't like that, right? At the beginning,
No.
it was a battle to keep it on
It
AMC.
was. It was. At the time, we live in a very different world now than we did in 2006, in 2007. The content of the show was really heavy and hard. There wasn't many shows that pushed the envelope like we have today, that really break these boundaries of social norm on television. We didn't have access to media like we have today, and so uh, I loved it. I loved every minute of it. But the world at that time was like a show about meth. We don't want to watch a show about meth. And what we were able to create, brought so much awareness to that drug, and to the family struggles that so many people, not just Americans, but people around the world are facing. And that's what I think really gravitated towards people from Breaking Bad, um, was how real it was to a lot of people. How it wasn't some imaginary, like not everyone was turning into drug dealers, but people were struggling, and people are struggling. And that fight to do what you need to provide, um, they really captured that.
It really did, and quality is the word that I think of when I think of Breaking Bad. Like every scene, like we're ultimately a film page here at Love of Film, so we're fascinated by the performances that you guys did, and the cinematography and the writing, whether it be Vince Gilligan or Peter Gould or the whole crew that made that
So,
amazing show. Like it's so good.
well, I read a lot of scripts. I'm very grateful for my career. I shoot about a movie a year. And then sometimes my movies take about 5 years to get finished. but but the quality of writing, it that quality of writing has always stuck with me. Uh, when you read the scripts, you saw the scripts. And I don't know if you're an avid book reader.
I've read the script of Breaking Bad, the pilot. It's amazing.
You can see it though.
Yeah,
You don't have to, there's a lot of things that I read, and there's a lot of movies that I read, and I'm just like, how are we going to convey this? How am I supposed to say this and not be an asshole? Like,
yeah.
we don't want you to be an asshole, but you need to say it. And it's like, you have to figure it out. You kind of have to question it. You have to learn it. But with Breaking Bad, when you read something, you could see it, you could understand it, you knew how the puzzle placed. And so I when that was every script. That wasn't just the pilot. That was every single script, and our writing team and leading the way, Vince Gilligan, which it was his birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday,
Um,
Vince.
yeah, right. He just knows how to create. And I know like a lot of people don't like the word, but truly cinematic pieces of art. And so I'm just so grateful that I got to grow up on something, to be able to recognize this cinematic layer of being able to see it, being able to write something and know what it's going to look like, even before we get the crew. And then our crew on the show, man, we had the best in the business. It was all hands on deck, and everyone was passionate about it. You know, everyone loved it. Everyone wanted to be there and put in the OT.
Yeah. I mean, for us film nerds too, about like the actual, making of these things. Like I love that scene where your character Walt Jr. Flynn goes to Walter White's new apartment, and he's falling asleep. He accidentally calls him Jesse, and there's that amazing moment where the
Yeah.
two of you guys are across from each other, and you know he says to your character, "I don't want you to remember me this way," and Walter Jr. gives this amazing line where he's like, "I just don't want to remember you the way you've been for the past year." I just love that
Yeah.
scene. How many times did you guys go over that? Was like, how does a scene like that get made?
So that scene was very important to me as well. I was going through something similar with my grandfather with emphysema at the time. And that scene, me and him talked before we kind of ran it, before we shot it. And earlier that day, he had some pretty heavy scenes, because anytime he was in that little apartment, it wasn't good for him. Um, and so we ran through the scenes in the beginning, and then we just did it. We just laid it out there, and you know, I do my best when I create my characters, especially when it comes to an emotional level, to use my own experiences. I'm a firm believer that the best acting comes from within. It comes from your knowledge, what you've experienced, and then you cater it towards that scene. And for me, being able to do that with Bryan was a great way, and almost therapeutic for what I was going through in my real life at the time. Um, and when you're working with someone like Bryan Cranston, it's you play off of each other, and you have that bounce board to bounce back and forth from, and it just keeps amplifying and amplifying, and having great guidance from your director. Directors don't really give great advice or
Yeah,
great guidance all the time. They kind of will just shove you out there sometimes, but having a great director really can the emotional levels. And it really didn't take that long to do that scene. I'd probably only say 4 to 6 hours, because of setups. You know, um, everyone we had a really amazing set that would have great turnaround, and we shot on film. We were one of the last shows or one of the first shows to shoot on film, and one of the last to shoot on film.
so
Um,
cool. Do you think that's why? I mean, obviously not just because of the film cameras, but do you think that's part of the reason why people are still finding Breaking Bad and keeping it as relevant as shows that are coming out, say, last week?
I mean, I think Breaking Bad is bigger than it ever was before. I feel confidently in saying that I've never seen so much love recent in my career to now, that how big the show has gotten. And I think media has a big play in that. But I do think, between us shooting on film, having Vince's amazing guidance and his writing and his writing team, um, I think it was a perfect storm. It was a show that, in all for all intents and purposes, probably shouldn't have been made Um, but and it was so pure and raw and unforgiving, and it took people on a journey that, you know, had some dramatized aspects, but very real. And I really think that there's a moment in the series for everyone. And as you rewatch it and as you grow with it, you change who you root for. You change how you see these people, and you change what you take away from film. And for me, that's what makes the entertainment industry and television and film so fun, is when you're able to create a piece of art like that can withstand the test of time, and not just do that, but change with you on how you view it over time.
I get that, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, I know you've probably answered this question before, but I mean, I know in the last two seasons, Breaking Bad became Breaking Bad. It went from this AMC show to this global touchstone. Do you remember first realizing what it had become?
I think the first time we realized how it's grown and what it's become was at Comic Con, at San
Uh,
Diego Comic Con. That was, I think, like the end of season 5. We walked out and it was a packed room of like 7,000 people, and we're like, where did all these people come from?
It's all H. I remember watching that. I mean, like in Ireland, when these things come out, San Diego Comic Con, every single panel, everybody's talking about it. It was just had such a gigantic, reach. And I'm talking back then, I would have been 12 or 13, probably way too young to be watching Breaking Bad. But hey, man, I love the show. When
Hey,
you,
well, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate your parents for letting you watch.
they don't know.
Ah, I see, I see.
Yeah. Sorry for the interruption. If you're enjoying Love It Film, why not show your support by subscribing to the channel, clicking the bell notifications, giving this video you're watching right now a like, and leave a comment, good or bad. We can take the abuse. Help us grow so I can keep giving you these interviews. Interviews like stars of Red Dead Redemption 2, actors in movies, Dexter Resurrection, you name it. Do follow our socials on Instagram. It's all just at Love It Film. You find us very, very easily on Instagram, TikTok, and of course, if you're watching here on YouTube, we have it on YouTube. We have Spotify too, and Apple Podcasts. Now back to the interview. I mean, going back to even just being an actor doing the, as you were saying, it's not just Breaking Bad where you're learning lines, but you do about a movie a year. I heard you say that you read and learn lines in a rhythm. Can you explain what that means?
So, like music, right? Music, I think finding a rhythm is you finding your rhythm. You can find it through music, and you can find it through how you feel music. And I have, as a young kid in school, I would have to memorize chapters, and you would have to stand in front of a teacher, and you would have to read them without the book. And so as a young kid, like 8, 9, 10, it could be a little scary. You gotta stand there, and people. There's a classroom of people looking at you, and so one of the tools my mom gave me and helped was we would turn all of my memorization stuff into rap songs, into kind of finding the beats, right? And so, I kind of always carry that through into when I learned, is kind of finding these beats throughout the script of, okay, I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to swing it like this, or I'm going to dip it like this. And music is a great way to kind of find that rhythm. And then we turn it into just words without like a harmony, or without a rhythm. Um, and I think it's a great way if you're having a hard time. I talk to a lot of people who have a hard time memorizing their lines. And when you get monologues and stuff of that nature, um, it's not always easy. Sometimes we're very difficult paired together. And so finding your rhythm in those words and finding what rhythm works for you and having your beat, um, and I think it helps so much when it comes to memorizing dialogue, and I like to sleep on it.
Right. So is that like a kind of like your brain soaks it a little bit?
It soaks it a little bit, and it kind of it puts it in there. I'll read my scenes for the next day, and I'll go right to bed. You know, and I find when I wake up, I'm still thinking about the lines. I still remember the lines, and I find that's a great another way to really not just memorize them, but incorporate them into your own dialogue.
Yeah. I get you. I mean, it's so interesting to me as someone who's not an actor. Like when I'm hearing you do all these, big scenes, I'm like, wow, how does he remember every single word? So it's like magic to me. Now
Yeah,
after break, yeah, sorry,
but
go ahead.
when no, I'm sorry, but when the scripts are written really really well, it just flows. There's no having to remember because if it's well written and you know your part really well, it's in you, and it's already there, and you resonate with it. And that when you have that same resonating as your job, it's like anyone that's good at their job. You know what I mean? Welders have a rhythm, and gardeners, they have a rhythm. And once they know the rhythm of how they're welding or how they're cutting or whatever it is, they do it instinctually. And that's eventually that's where we all hopefully get to in our careers.
Oh, well said, well said. And we have a lot of people who watch this podcast who want to do what you do, or, they're like me in an instance where you're like, I don't know what you do. I don't know what that world's like. We just watch you guys from our TVs, and you're like, wow, he's such a good actor or whatever. But after Breaking Bad, did you find being in a show like that and such a well-known character, did that help you in your acting? Like, did that help you get more roles, or was that maybe made it harder to get roles?
I think it was a double-edged sword. I got. I mean, I wouldn't have the career I have today without the show. Like just, just bottom line, I would not have the reach. I would not have the knowledge. I would not have the understanding or the opportunities, without the show. At the same time, though, a lot of people, it's like who wants to hire Walt Jr. Like, that was kind of a stigma that I fought for many years. And I mean, like, I even still fight it today sometimes because me and the character are so similar, with my cerebral palsy, and my dark hair, and I played Walt Jr.
Do you
and
know what it could
it's
be too? Is
it's
that you still look very young as well, as in,
young.
yeah, as in you don't look like, say, you've aged 10 years or anything like that. So that's probably why people, when they see you, they remember you look the
Try
same.
try 18. We just had our 18th year
Oh my God.
anniversary.
Wow.
It's been that long. Um, I think that's a play. I do try to grow my beard out. No, like I can get a pretty thick, bushy
I can
beard.
see your beard. I mean, it's badass.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I stay away from the goatees. I don't
Yeah, I
do the
don't do that
goatee
either. I
thing.
mean,
No,
I have a little
no,
bit
no.
of something now, but goatees now, they're not
But
cool.
no, it looks good on you though. It
Oh,
looks
thank you,
it
thank
looks
you.
nice. Um, I think I do have a lot of sim. I mean, I played the character for so long, and people see that. So I do believe it's hard for people to break away from seeing me in other characters. But again, though, I couldn't do what I do today without the show. And for me, a lot of like I love making movies. I love making films and TV shows, and but I love my advocacy as equally as much. And the advocacy I get to do around the world and help inspire young actors and young people in general and old people to still live their dreams, to still push forward, to this is a hard industry. It's an industry. That's what people forget. And you know, media has kind of changed the narrative where people see these glitz and glams and all this money. And the reality of it is it's not about the money. It's about hard work. It's about determination. It's about when you get knocked down, keep coming back, keep pushing forward. Ireland and the great country of England itself has an amazing film industry. And I mean, I recommend to any young person or anyone that wants to get into it that's listening right now, talk to your film commissions, sign up for extra work. You have some of the best content coming out of Ireland and London and England and Scotland. If you're in those regions, talk to the commissions. They're easy to find online. Um, Find your local extra company because there's movies coming there, and they usually have funding
Yeah.
to pay for extras.
Yeah, big time, big time. Like even like
Big
things
time.
like your advocacy, it's so fantastic. First of all, because when doing the research, I've been seeing the amount of things you've done for cerebral palsy, and when I think of you as an actor, I don't think of an actor who has cerebral palsy. I think of RJ Mitte. Like it's phenomenal what you've done. First of all, just researching and reading it and hosting the Paralympics or Channel 4 and stuff like that. It's like, wow. I mean, how did you step into that? As in, did that happen by accident? As in, because of say the global fame? It just you were like, well, this is something good I could do.
Well, I grew up with a family that always instilled advocacy. That always instilled in me to to do what I can and to not turn a blind eye. And I at the end of the series and towards the end of the series, I started working with SAG-AFTRA's IMPWD division and more outreach for young actors with disabilities. And you know, as you said earlier, as we talked about this double-edged sword of Breaking Bad and how notable it is to then what it is after that. We really and my team and me really wanted to, okay, what can I do that is not, that is not Breaking Bad, that is not just this industry, but can elevate others. And having this show only helped me be a greater advocate to really I hate saying this out loud, but to open the doors for others, to be able to bridge that gap into places where people were originally blocked, that they weren't allowed to get into, that people didn't know how to get into it. And it, I'm very grateful that I've traveled the world and I've seen the most amazing communities in some of the poorest cities and that have the most talent, but they don't have hope. And as a young actor at the time with a disability, there wasn't a lot like me. There wasn't a lot of people who really saw people with disabilities as viable. And now that narrative has changed. And I'm very grateful that when we started the show that we transitioned, okay, how can we go make the difference? How can we take a show this big and use my notoriety to really bridge these gaps in communities, bridge these gaps in our industry and change that perspective? And I'm very grateful and I think we did that.
100%. I mean, as I said, well, just even doing the research on it, I remember back from being a teenager with the show on, my awareness of cerebral palsy came from you because I knew Walt Jr., you were popping up on my phone. Like it was like, hi, I was Walt Jr. in Breaking Bad. This is something I have in real life, by the way. And you definitely did that. I mean, it got to everybody, and for, anybody listening to with any disability, I think it's great. I love one thing you said. I can't remember what interview it was, but you said, someone says, "What's wrong with you?" It's like, "There's nothing wrong with me. What's wrong with you?" I just thought that quote
Yeah.
was great.
Well,
Very good.
that actually came from me going to school. That
Yeah,
I as a young adult. I mean, I think even now we deal with a lot of bullies in our lives. We just don't call them
yeah.
bullies anymore.
We call them bosses.
Um, we call them bosses. Call them anyway. Anyways, I'm not gonna say what we call them, but it's facing a reality, and as a young, I learned it that no one, we don't all have the same perspective. We don't all have the same knowledge, and we're not all exposed to people of differences, and so I learned to never take other people's criticisms or their views of who I am as who I am. And that's something that I think we forget, is that, especially in the day of media with all this content and all these comments and all these things, we take that as personal attacks and we take it so hard and heavy. But in reality, they don't know you. They don't know who you are. They don't know what you're truly capable of. And I think it's up to you to withstand the storm and show them.
Yeah, big time. I mean, I love your motivational speaking though, because every time you're saying it, it's taking me back to those videos. It's very, very good. Another thing you said, which I want to ask you about too, is readiness with opportunity. For the listeners now, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So readiness meets opportunity. So, in life, we're always ready for something, but the opportunity doesn't always come. And a lot of times what will happen in life is that we'll get ready, 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 and beaten down on the readiness, and we slack on that. And then the opportunity comes and someone else is ready, And so I find in the industry, it's so important, especially in the entertainment industry, um, to be ready for anything at all times. And when the opportunity arises, you seize that moment. You take and those two pair so well together that it's undeniable. And that's what gets people to that next level, is always being ready, always being prepared. And so one day that moment arises, you can seize it. I find in life though, it's very hard to always be ready, to be ready for the unknown, to be ready for things that you can't even comprehend, to be ready for projects and things that you know even nothing about. But one day this thing just drops on you, and either you catch it or it crushes you.
Wow, very true. Now, RJ, I have a question from Carl from the team. He's actually my brother in real life. He's a big fan of yours too. He was watching Breaking
Tell
Bad
him
with
thank
me.
you.
100%. He was watching it too young as well. Breaking Bad. He's about 2 years older than me. But his question was, back at the end of the show, when your final scene with Bryan Cranston, where he calls you in the school, calls Walter Jr., and there's this incredible scene where it's so quiet. Walt is on the phone going, "I have $100,000 for you. Go collect that for you and the family and such." And then you just explode. What we were wondering was, when that was being filmed, were you alone in this school when that was being done, or was Bryan perhaps in the room with you, or was that just something you did on your own?
No, no, no. So we were shooting at I don't know if it was a school or a hospital. We were shooting at a location, and we had the whole team there. We had a room of like 15, 20 people in that room for that scene. And Bryan was there, because he was shooting another scene, and he was off in a corner. And so we were going back and forth, and that was such a heart-wrenching scene, because like I admire Bryan so much. And that kind of, like, I hate you, that venom. um it's hard to hate someone that you enjoy, but his character was a bad guy. His character was not a good man, and did make the family suffer. And so it was, I think it was just desserts.
Yeah. Carl was wondering too, with that specific scene, going beyond what we as the viewers saw, that was your last interaction with Walter White in the show. Do you think perhaps the character of Walter Jr. after that, say even in present day, would grow to maybe regret being so angry at his father in the show, because maybe he found out that he didn't exactly kill Hank and Gomez?
I think it's a hard, I think it's a double-edged sword to get in that. Um, I find, you know, looking back on it in hindsight, think about any fight you've ever had with your father, and the last words that a lot of people get with the family, and when you have that fight and then it goes off and it's like he died, like he was killed. there's regret in that. There's always regret in that because it's like, man, what could I have done differently to save his life? And so I think at the time, you know, everything Walt Jr. said was true. He wasn't a good person. He wasn't being a good husband. He wasn't being a good father. He was being selfish and greedy. And he did lose his way. But, I think in real life, when it comes to that type of remorse, when it comes to that loss of what those were my last words, and those probably still echo in him. And it's maybe I shouldn't have, maybe I did, but that's all hindsight, and you
Yeah.
can't take it away.
And it's as you said, with the quality of that writing, it wouldn't be realistic either.
Well, I don't think it would really at this point the show, he died.
Yeah.
Like he died. We're taken away to a whole different life. When something like that happens, like the DEA steps in and they seize all your stuff and they pretty much put you in like witness protection when you have someone that's that level
Yeah.
of crime. So I think there's a fine line of at the end, I think you can kind of see it in Walt Jr. when he's walking off the bus of regret, but like, power and that motivation of regret. I find people aren't very motivated until something bad happens, until they go, one, what have we done?
Yeah.
Or two, I can't believe I did that. And they live with that forever. And I think that conversation is something that Walt Jr. will have to live with for the rest of his life.
That's super interesting coming from the man who acted as Walter Jr. What I love too about those going beyond the show, that period at the ending, the press circuits that you guys were doing were so funny. There was the Nerdist bowling match. I love that video. I rewatched that
Yeah.
today. I love that. I remember watching that when I was a kid, going, "Oh, it's like breaking, it's Heisenberg doing bowling." I loved it.
Well, and
It's
we did a baseball game against was it in not yeah in plain sight.
right, yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
had a baseball game. No, the content of the show is so heavy. And a lot of times it was in the scenes in those moments high stress, but the overall essence of the show is very comedic.
Yeah.
Was very happy, and I think Bryan and Anna and the whole team really did a good job of taking these high stress moments and keeping them grounded in reality and keeping them grounded on set so people weren't overexhausted or overstressed, because the content again was heavy. It was pretty dark, but our team was a very light team and very very ecstatic and motivated to really be able to balance it.
And hard not to laugh when you have Bryan Cranston as your scene partner. He's one of the funniest people alive.
He has a musical background, I'm sure you've seen his later works with a lot of theater and Anna as well has a big theater. Betsy Brandt and Dean Norris, they've all done theater. I was kind of the only one that never made it out of my school with theater, but everyone sang. It was a very musical set, and Bryan has a great singing voice, and they all have these great theatrical singing voices, and it was always a laugh.
Like speaking of being around like people like that, even like that press circuit as I was mentioning, like you guys were interviewed by Conan O'Brien, which I'm a huge fan of. I
No,
mean, again, so alien for us in Ireland.
Conan's
What's Conan?
great.
Yeah.
No, dude, Conan is like one of the nicest, like funniest dudes that you'll like, super humble guy and very kind.
Oh, that's amazing to hear. Now, the last thing I'd like to ask you, RJ. First of all, you've been a phenomenal guest. This has been great. a lot of people watch this who, are starting out wanting to be an actor, and I wouldn't ask the basic question of what advice would you have. We go more specific of, imagine there was an actor who, say, got into a show like Breaking Bad, where suddenly everybody knows who they are and they're going to end that show and go off and be an actor outside of that. Very specific. But if there was someone like that watching, maybe, what advice would you give them?
It's hard. That's a hard position to be in. I think the biggest thing that I could tell them is always be wary of drugs and alcohol. Number one. The parties don't last forever, and the celebration doesn't last forever. Always stay true to yourself. Always stay true to your morals. And do your best to always remember the community that you come from, and don't take shit from anyone. I think for me that's one of my big things. Like growing up on the show was I've always done my best to fight for what I believe in, and to fight for my friends and my community and my family, and to never give up that person that you are, and to never let someone devalue you or put you in a questionably moral state. Have fun, enjoy it, ride the wave as long and far as you can, but always do your best to stay true to who you are, and to just never give up, even when it gets hard, because it's a long way down from the top of the mountain. You can't, once you climb to the top, you do have to come down sometime. And so, and that just means you have to find a new mountain to climb. You have to find that next tallest peak, and to not let your past overweigh your future, but to utilize your past and grow beyond it and above it, and to use it as a tool, but not let it use you.
Well said. RJ, last thing I want to show you, actually, my two brothers are in the room. They're huge fans of yours. They just want to say hello.
Please, come on. What's up?
Oh my God, hey man, what's up?
What's up, man? How are you doing today? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Come on the other side,
yeah. You come over here.
Hey man, what's up? Thanks for joining us.
What? No, such a pleasure, guys. Thank y'all so much for having me on the show. It's a blast to be on. We've had a great conversation.
Yeah, man, we've been watching behind the scenes. Absolutely fucking blast, man.
Yeah, I'm behind the camera, but and I'm probably going to edit this. Thanks for answering my questions that I sent in as well. I don't know what you said, but
hey, that's why I'm here.
Yeah, man, you're so awesome. I can't wait. I watch Breaking Bad every year, and I was actually about to rewatch it again because it's like seasonal for me. And then I found out you were coming on. I was like, oh my God, this is insane. So thank you so much.
Dude, it's my pleasure. It's an honor to be on the show. Anytime I get to talk about what I love, my work, I'm always grateful to be able to have something like this that just continues to echo on, and I'm very appreciative. So thank y'all for having me.
Oh, thank you, man. And
any more questions? Do you have questions before we got off while we were talking?
Well, other than the two questions I sent in, I guess I'd like to see you in Pluribus, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to see myself in Pluribus too.
Yeah.
Have you been watching?
Yeah. Season 1. I just finished season 1. It's amazing, of course. Like
stunning.
Yeah.
Just Vince creates these stunning shows like for me, I'm a big fan of like sci-fi horror and sci-fi like thrillers, and the Hive. This is such a great take on hive minds.
Yeah.
And visually appealing like no other show.
Yeah, get in touch with Vince, or
we'll spam him in the comment section.
I'm gonna work on it. I hope. I think it's a little complicated. I think it'd be complicated trying to mash those two worlds, because again, I still look.
Oh, it's completely different, 100%. Yeah.
Still, would love to see it.
Me too.
All right, thanks very much, man.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, thank you guys. Have a great day.
RJ, just before you go too, is there anything you'd like to promote to the audience or anything that maybe any of the advocacy things, anywhere to donate or anything like that?
No, I would love to. I mean, my biggest thing is if you have the opportunity to make the difference, do so. Be that difference. You don't have to raise a bunch of money. You don't have to go far. Look for advocacy in your backyard. To me, that's the most important thing. There's millions of nonprofits, and they're all huge, and they all get the notoriety. But I think where the true impact happens is where you live, where your family is, where the people that you love in your community is. And for me, I think the best way to find that is, we all have these iPhones and Google now, so Google nonprofits in your area, find what affects you and who you would have wanted in your life that would have either one changed your life for the better or that you just felt that you were lacking, and be that person for someone else. There's so many opportunities that we miss out on because we don't feel worthy, and so it usually takes someone to say no, to give you that push. And if you're in a spot to give someone that push, do so. Local advocacy is key, and where you're at in the world, y'all have a strong sense of community, and so don't be afraid to volunteer. Don't be afraid to get out there, and if someone needs the door held, hold that door. If someone needs help with something, pick it up for them. Don't maybe ask, say excuse me, but be that person. And we all in this world as human beings have an obligation to be that person for each other. So if you find yourself in that chance and you feel that you want to make that difference, find your local groups, find your local community, and be that person for them.
RJ, you've been honestly a phenomenal guest. I can't thank you enough for coming on to Love and Film, man. This has been such a treat to me because it's one of those things where you're a fan of somebody and you never think, oh, I'm going to talk to that person, and then here we are today, man. So thanks for making that happen.
Here we are. Hey, anytime, man. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I hope y'all have an A1 day.
I can't wait to tell them you just said that. Thanks, man. It's been so good talking to you. Have a nice
Pleasure,
day.
man. Y'all have a great day.
Welcome back to Love It or Hate It. I'm here with my co-host, Chris. Wait a minute. You're not Chris. Who are you?
Jamie from Love It Film.
I'm here with Carl, the other co-host. Now, RJ Mitte. We just chatted to him about everything under the sun, whether it be Breaking Bad or, his advocacy for cerebral palsy. He was such an interesting guest. Honestly, he was so nice. He was so forthright, honest about his experiences. And, it was such a pleasure for me talking to him as a fan. I mean, you love Breaking Bad as well. I mean, you got to say hello to him there at the end. How was that?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it was planned from this morning. But as we were getting to it, I was kind of like, oh, maybe not me. I was sitting with Chris back there because we were operating the camera and the everything else, and I was just getting a bit nervous. But then, I was glad in the end that Jamie did call us up because RJ was exactly.
You would have regretted it if you didn't get called. You loved Breaking Bad. It would have been.
He was exactly what I hoped he would be and what I kind of expected him to be as well. He was very nice, very chilled out, and just very humble. So
big time.
Very good. Very glad that I got to speak to him.
Yeah, man. It was just weird as well because you forget these people are real, and then you're sitting there and you're talking to them. And you remember I've seen Breaking Bad the whole run maybe 5 times. You have too. It was weird being like, oh, hold on a second, this is RJ Mitte, the actor, and this isn't this character that he so convincingly.
What is better, Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul?
Oh, Breaking Bad. Hands down.
Look, because we had RJ on.
No, it just is. No. Anyone who says it's Saul, look, first of all, Better Call Saul is
I'm not
great.
saying it's Saul.
But it's not the compelling story that Breaking Bad was. It's just not.
I'm not going to sit here and you could sit here and tear the two of them apart and say, give the strengths and the weaknesses of both, which are very slim, by the way. Of course, they're the best shows I think to ever exist. I don't think one is better than the other. And Breaking Bad has a much more straightforward story, and a more sort of, kind of, it's more of a thriller in a way, as much as it is a drama. Better Call Saul does get there, but it's just a bit more of a slow burn. And if you're patient, and what I'll say is, if you're not patient for Better Call Saul, you're not going to be able to watch Pluribus, because Pluribus is even more of a slow burn.
Is it?
Even though
I haven't seen Pluribus yet, but I really want to watch it.
Yeah.
It's Vince, and I hear what you're saying. You can't compare them, but couldn't you really argue that Better Call Saul is Breaking Bad?
Well, yeah, and
Walt and Jesse are in it. It is Breaking
spoiler
Bad.
alert. It did finish 3 years ago.
It is Breaking Bad, so to speak. It is the same universe.
Well, they gave it the Saw treatment with the backwards baseball cap, and Jesse and Walt, where they looked exactly.
He looked better. Without spoiling it, the scene, he looked better than he did in El Camino. Anyway,
forgot he was
I'm talking about Walt's bald cap.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about anybody's appearance whatsoever, but just the makeup. I'm talking about. I guess it is appearance, but it's not their fault. El Camino had the big bobblehead, whatever it was. But
what's the best Breaking Bad season?
What's the best?
Oh man, 4.
4. No, yeah. I like this. I like the bits of the first half of 5 as well. And
I love all of them.
the second half of 5 is genius. Obviously,
There is no bad part of Breaking Bad.
No,
there is no. For me, anyway, there is no slow moment. You can watch that show over and over again, and every single time you, as RJ said in the interview, every time you watch Breaking Bad, you end up rooting for someone different.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the only parts of Breaking Bad where I'm kind of like, as I said in the interview, I watch it seasonally, so like the only parts where I'm always like, oh, this again kind of thing, is those scenes where Jesse is kind of blaming himself for everything, and he starts to have those parties, and Walt has to or he splits from Walt.
After he kills your man, what the hell is his name? Gale, yeah.
And he's just in the house with the speakers and all the junkies and everything. That's the only part of the show where I'm like, okay, this again. And obviously, I cannot forget to mention all of the Ted scenes.
Yeah, what about Happy Birthday, Mr. President?
Yeah, the Jesse party scenes are nothing compared to the Ted Beneke scenes.
Yeah.
The Ted Beneke scenes. I always laugh watching them, and I say this to Chris and Jamie every time. Every Ted scene, especially in, I think, season 3, maybe, he walks into every scene that he comes into, he does the same thing. He walks into frame from the hallway, and then he's catching Skylar kind of in the room. He's like, oh, hey, Sky. And then he goes in, and it's, yeah, I take back everything I said about the Jesse scenes. The Ted Beneke scenes, I think, are the thing that you would cut out from the show. As much as they're essential to Skylar's development.
Right. I see what you mean.
I mean, with Breaking Bad, I don't know if you guys hear it, but you didn't mention the interview has been talked about, but the actual house has been sold now.
Oh yeah.
She actually was asking for something like $3 million.
It was $4 million.
$4 million, yeah. And then she was only given what the actual house worth in that area.
400,000.
Yeah. See, what happened was, researching RJ for the interview, what I was doing is I was watching a lot of his previous interviews, make sure I don't ask duplicates of the questions, something new for RJ hopefully to answer. And yeah, even RJ was actually looking up the price listing of the house and stuff like that. He looked up that he worked out in his own head that the maximum you could pay is something like 1.2 mil,
Yeah.
And then Aiden Ross, is that his name? He's just that annoying streamer guy. Yeah, he bought it, but that's about it.
Yeah. I mean, everyone has their own opinions of those kind of streamers, but
it'd probably be like a Mr. Beast, make it like in a Breaking Bad experience house.
Yeah. To this guy's credit, I guess he does want to do what everyone's been asking, is to turn it into a museum. Now that's just going to make him richer than he needs to be, of course.
Yeah.
But I guess, I mean, that's what people have been saying for years, that it should just be a museum at this point.
It belongs in a museum.
But not good for the neighbours.
Okay, any films lately that you've seen that you love or hate?
I just saw. Oh, I did want to talk about this. You didn't see it, but me and Chris watched Iron Lung, the beginning of last week, I believe. and we saw it on, I think, was it opening night, Chris?
Yes.
In Dublin. And as everybody who's fans of Markiplier knows, this film was demanded into theaters, into local theaters, through the website. And you know, when I first heard he was making the movie three years ago or so, I thought, oh, I'm never going to see that in cinema because it will never. That's something that will come out in California. It's not something that'll come out in Ireland. But you know, 3 years on, here I was in the cinema watching.
Was it good?
Yeah. No. Here's the thing: the movie, from a production standpoint, is amazing. You can tell, you can see the craftsmanship, the effort that goes in there. Chris will testify. The movie is very well made from a story standpoint, and I had this opinion 3 years ago as well. I think because I've watched all of his videos since I was 15, like most people, and I would say he probably, in my opinion, picked the most, I guess, kind of boring game to base a movie off of, which is where Iron Lung, where you're in a submarine in an ocean of blood and you just kind of scan for monsters and stuff like that. And I would have done an SCP movie. I hope he does an SCP movie next.
Man, that was such a scary game. Yeah,
but at the
I would have killed just to watch, you know, Markiplier doing, you know, being the night guard and Five Nights at Freddy's for an hour, because that's what Iron Lung felt.
He would have been great. As
that. So it was a great movie. You know, story wise, I think maybe it was a bit long, but I hesitate a lot to say anything bad about Markiplier or his film because I'm such a loyal fan. I'm biased. You know, I can't really criticize it, to be honest, even if I see things that I might not like necessarily.
So what you're saying is,
you know,
you had problems, but you won't say it because you like Markiplier.
Yes.
Jamie, anything you've seen?
Disney invited us to send help. That was great. Yeah, good movie. Sam Raimi, who's in it? Rachel McAdams, Dylan O'Brien. You know, I was hesitant going in. I was like, is this going to be good? I mean, Sam Raimi's always good. But I was kind of afraid because Multiverse of Madness was not great, and that was his last connection with Disney. So I was like, I don't know. But it was good. It was proper Sam Raimi. It was freaky. It was weird. Weirdest thing I've seen in ages. Rachel McAdams, hard to make her look ugly, you know? Yes. And that's what they were going for in the movie. It's very difficult to do that with Rachel McAdams. But they somehow did it. And, well, I don't think so. Let's cut that out.
We're at 10 minutes now, so he's going to...
Carl, leave that in.
No, don't.
I'm the editor. I'm leaving that in.
And, yeah, send help. I love send help. But
yeah,
before we end the episode, I just want to congratulate the world that Kathleen Kennedy has officially left Star Wars. We're all very excited for what's to come. I'm sorry, but like, come on, Dave Filoni's in charge now, and man, I don't know. I don't look.
Well, we won't get into that,
but we will a bit. All right, Filoni's.
You won't get in trouble. She's not in the.
His Clone Wars stuff is all right. Like, it's animated, you know. He's not qualified to run Star Wars. Ahsoka, the Hayden stuff was great, but otherwise the most boring show I've ever seen. Andor, there's no one using the Force or using lightsabers. It's not Star Wars.
Unpopular opinion.
On a final note on Iron Lung, I'll just say, look, as much as I have kind of mixed feelings about the plot, I think, you know, fair fucks to them for making that movie independently, and it's made like 4 times its budget. I think it was ahead of Send Help for a good while there, a few days at the very least. And I think
Markiplier is so talented, man. I mean, I'd love to interview him to talk about that movie.
And it's been battling Send Help. It was still kind of like, you know, they were neck to neck for a while there, and it got an extra weekend in theaters, and I think it's near 30 million now. It could be over.
Wow.
And you know, Mark said himself that you know, any extra money just means, you know, a bigger bonus for the crew and the people that help put that together. And you know, a lot of it obviously goes to the theaters and the distributors as well and stuff like that. But you know, all I have to say from an Irish standpoint, I'll say fair play. You know, that's something we always say here. Fair play to you. What a movie, and you did it. And I can't wait for the next one.
That does it here for this episode of Love It Film. We had RJ Mitte on today, and that was amazing. I can't believe we did that. And I just want to thank RJ again for coming on to the show. Anyone watching this video, if you like these videos, make sure to like the video, subscribe, click the bell notifications, all that jazz that helps out us. Also, leave a review, Apple Podcasts. Yeah, that's about all. Anyway, see you next week.